All right, now I'm going to send it live on Facebook. Oops. Oops. I will be if I could spell, this would be a lot easier. I'll tell you what, I cannot type today to save my life.
That's right. I write about the apocalypse and I can't spell it.
Oh, I know. I get that wrong every time. All right. Are you ready? Here we go. Going live. Maybe.
It says it's live on Facebook.
Is it coming in now?
Well, I'm not sure. I just see the message on the Zoom saying it's live.
Yes, it is. Okay, well, I guess we are live. That's what it kind of looks like we're live. Yes, although it's not showing up for me. At any rate, everybody's probably watching me trip over myself right now, which is, you know, I seem to do that well often. At any rate, I know we're recording for YouTube, so I just wanted to introduce the show. This is the Written Apocalypse Show, and I am DJ Cooper, and I am your host. And we've been doing these shows now for almost 2 years on Prepper Podcast, and we've just decided to start taking it live on the videos, and we air it live in the Written Apocalypse group on Facebook. So a lot of these people hang out with us in Facebook. So if you want to come on over to the Facebook group, I am in there, so I'm watching to see if anybody wants to come in and comment if you'd like to ask questions or anything like that. We have tonight, for our very special guest, we have Barbara Gilbert. She is the author of The Future Apocalypse, and I think you have 2 out now. Is that correct, Barbara?
The second book will be out May 31st.
Wow, that's right around the corner. I wish I'd put the link up for that. I'm going to have to do that.
I do have a proof copy with me.
Well, let's see it. You're on video.
Right there.
Oh, look at that. Trying to see how this is going. We are not showing up as 2 like we're supposed to. Let me look at my video here real quick. It's not working. At any rate, while I mess with this, because then it will come up with you, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, my name's Barbara Gilbert. I don't even know where to start with introducing myself. I guess I could start I'm a disabled veteran. I served 7 years in the Air Force during Desert Storm time frame, but I, of course, didn't go. I did help my squadron go. I have 2 boys that are currently in the Air Force themselves. I have one married that's stationed in Alaska and another one that's stationed in Oklahoma. I grew up kind of all over, so I have a lot of experience in different locations in the United States. I grew up in Texas, lived in Montana, Washington State, Also lived in North Carolina for 13 years after I got out of the Air Force. So in my story, it starts out in North Carolina and then moves to the Pacific Northwest. I've always been interested in end of the world. When I was growing up, I had a fascination with the book of Revelations, which is an apocalypse in and of itself. And so I always dreamt up stories about, how things could end, or, how things would work. I also am a photographer. I haven't been doing a lot of photography lately because the book has taken a lot of time. But that is one of my hobbies. I'm also an amateur radio operator. So in the DD12 group, I am somewhat involved with the ham operation side of that. As far as, I'm trying to think what else. I've got a lot of different hobbies. I do some painting, mostly paint by number. It's easier. I just put the paint in. Can't think of anything else right now.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about your books?
Okay. The first one, Future Apocalypse, Time Travel Series Beginnings, starts with, like I said, it starts in North Carolina. It's a young girl. She's born right during a hurricane. Her father grew up in a prepper family, so he was very familiar with being prepared for disasters. So he had a special basement that he built in his house, had at least a week's supply of materials. So anytime there was a hurricane, they could go down there and be safe. Her parents found out that she was very brilliant, didn't want her, being, I guess, made fun of and things of that nature. And they didn't want her to grow up too soon. So they kept her in her regular age group. While she was growing up, she read everything, physics books, anything you could think of. And then, but her biggest fascination was time travel. And she knew that in her head, she had the answer, but she just didn't have the means to do it yet. And as she gets older, she ends up moving to the Pacific Northwest, makes a friend, and one of her little schemes of making enough money to do her time travel project is she joins with her friend and they create a bionics company to replace missing limbs of veterans and military members and other people in the public. And when she develops or gets enough money, she builds her special room for her time travel project. She tests her time travel theory and everything's working great. She decides to go 250 years into the future and lands in the post-apocalyptic Northwest or Pacific Northwest. She immediately tries to go back and things go wrong and she's stuck there. Now she's not stuck there unprepared. She does bring with her her go bag, of which when she was a teenager, she just threw it in a closet. But she brought her go bag. She has, at least a week's supply of food. She has, weapons, because she never knew exactly what she would find herself getting into. So she's at least prepared to survive for a small amount of time, hopefully until she finds some people that can help her and find a way to get back home, which leads to book 2. Book 2, the one that comes out May 31st, it'll be available in paperback and ebook, is her journey to the city of technology. She finds out that there's a city of technology that is sprung up out of the old remains of the former Tri-Cities in Washington State. And her group of friends go hiking across the Cascade Mountains into the eastern side of Washington State to the city of technology. She gets admittance, and she's trying to find out if they can help her get back. And of course, there's some really nice twists and turns, danger. They run into all kinds of problems, and she is shocked to find what they have at the city of technology and what they plan on doing with it. And I don't want to give out too much information, but that's
no,
where
I got to make them go read it.
Oh, yes. And then book 3, which isn't out yet, is Homeward Bound, which obviously in the title says she makes it home, but there'll be plenty of twists and turns in that.
Gotta love the twists and turns. Those are the best.
Mm-hmm.
So when you were writing it, can you tell me, I don't know, some of us have, maybe an inspiration. People say, write what you know.
Mm-hmm.
But where did the inspiration come for this story?
Initially, it came from when my kids were being homeschooled. Their father required them, I was separated at the time and then eventually divorced, but their father required them to write for NaNoWriMo every year in November. They didn't have to do anything else. Now, as much as I didn't like writing in school, I hated math even worse, I would have wrote, but no, not them. So while I was taking care of my mother in Washington State, I decided to try and give them some incentive, encourage them. So I started writing. And I wrote a story, never finished it, though I did kind of wrap it up recently and make it a short story that's free on my website. I can give that out later. Wrote a second story, didn't finish it now, and gave up for a while. And then in 2018, I thought, they've changed their rules. Maybe I'll continue that first story. All of these stories are in the apocalypse genre. And I started reading it. I printed it out, was reading it on the bus to New York City to a photography show, and decided, no, I didn't want to work with that one. And came home and started dreaming up a new story. And I just let my mind go to do whatever. And it kind of pulled together this story, and I let my mind bring up the story and followed it along. And then I'm more of a pantser, so I just sit and I type and the story goes where it goes. So, and I did have to do quite a bit of research, especially for book 2. But, I did some research on bionics, did research on a few other things, searched out different locations and things of that nature, making sure that I stay within the locale of the University of Washington when they start their company. In book 2, I had to learn a little bit about smokehouses, how to do, what was one of the other things? I'm trying to remember now. Can't quite remember, but I had to do a lot of research. Oh, I had to research medicinal and edible plants in the Pacific Northwest. What plants would they find? What was edible and that kind of thing, and what could be used for pain medicine, snake bites, that kind of stuff.
Oh, that's great information. So do you translate that into your books, the ways that these things can be used?
Yes, in fact, what I do is I use, like, the medicine is specifically pain medicine for the pain for some of my characters. For the snake bite, it goes into exactly what they need to do with the plant that they're using and how it's used. So yes, it does go into how to do that, and it goes, and with the smokehouse, it talks a little bit about how they fixed up an old beat up place to make it into a smokehouse, and what they did to, for smoking the meat and all.
Well, those are some really great tips and tricks. And that's the one thing I really like about post-apocalyptic fiction, is that sometimes it brings it into the real life of things where, especially now, the way that things are going, it will offer some insights perhaps into some of the things that can be incorporated from these stories into our own lives and our own preparedness things. Do you consider yourself on that lines a person who was prepared for all that we're going through right now, or
I would say yes. When everybody was like, oh, we got to go out and get everything, we were already sitting here with plenty of toilet paper. Yay! We had actually went shopping for a regular shopping trip the week before our state shut down, and we bought toilet paper because I thought we were out. Turns out we weren't. We had a whole unopened, big, huge 36-pack. So we haven't had to buy toilet paper in a while. But I'd say we were prepared. We had plenty of food, and all that. And then when we did need to go do some shopping, we did the social distancing, wearing a mask and all that. and just we basically carried on with life as if it was a regular normal life, other than the fact that we couldn't go anywhere.
How has that impacted you? Not being able to go anywhere and kind of being stuck all together that way.
Um, it's quite nerve-wracking sometimes. I mean, I spend a lot of time at home anyways. Um, but when I get a little buggy from being in the house too much, I like to go to a movie or go out and eat, or, you know, just go out and do something, you know, go shopping, even though I might not buy anything. And with all of this going on, it's like, nope, can't do that. In fact, we
Nope.
went on a few walks, but we decided not even do that because everybody was going on walks. So it's hard to social distance.
Yes. Yes. So what is, I guess how can your books tie into what people are experiencing today? Can you tell them ways that they may find that your characters dealt with situations that people may be dealing with today?
Hmm. Oh, let me
Throw the
think.
hard ones out at you, don't I?
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, because my characters are dealing with quite a bit different scenario, but you know, if the COVID thing had went to the point where everything collapsed, you know, where we had to actually go hunting, um, you know, there is hunting in the book and talks about how to track deer and um, how to skin a rabbit, you know, a little bit about how to do that. Um, how to snare. In book 2, I had to research how to do snare, you know, build actual snares out of materials. Now in our world, building the snare is going to be fairly easy because we have those materials, but if you don't, you have to find those things. um, I don't know. It is kind of hard to put it in with today's issues because, you know, uh, their world, there's nothing there. It's gone. You know, there's hardly
Right.
any humans left. Um, and so they have to do everything from scratch. In fact, Paulette, when she gets to the village, she actually helps them by building cisterns where they can pump water into their little huts and home things, cabins that they built. Instead of having to always just go and get the water, they could get it, store it for a while, and then be able to pump it into the house without having to go outside. And did other technological upgrades by using what was available in the area. Um,
So do you live in the Pacific Northwest?
no, actually, now I live in Maryland.
Oh, you're not
Um,
that far from me. I live in New Hampshire.
oh, okay, hi up there. Um, yeah, we're on the Eastern Shore, so it's the COVID-19 hasn't impacted us as much as the western side of the state. I think we're under 2,000 cases on the entire Eastern Shore, just on the Maryland side, not counting Delaware. Um, and then, you know, the rest of the state is like in the 30,000s because, you know, they're close to DC, you get Baltimore and other big cities. Um, Yeah, one of the things I forgot to mention is when I got to Maryland, I got right into the CERT program, which is
Hmm.
the civilians learning about emergency preparation. And took the class, learned about how to be prepared, how to, you know, put things together, make sure I have plenty of food and water for a couple of days, which I do. I have some Patriot food, I have water stocked up. Um, I also, right after taking that class, they made me the CERT coordinator. So I had a lot of fun. When they did our class and did our little scenario, it was really, there wasn't a lot of impact to it. So when I did my scenarios, I blew it way up. I had them making sure they took their victims to the red or the yellow or the green or the black. Now red is your, you know, got to look at these people right now. Yellow is they can wait, and green is walking wounded, which you recruit to help you, and black, well, those are the people that didn't make it. And, you know, had them spread out all over the place so that they had to find and administer first aid and carry them where they needed to go. And then I also did a separate go bag class. What is a go bag? Why is it important to have one? What do you need to have in those? In fact, I even did a blog on my website giving some basic stuff that you should have in those.
What is your website?
It is, I'm going to pop over here so I can say it right. I'll say it and then spell it. It's bjgilbert815 at wixsite.com/sci-fi author. So that would be BJGILBERT 815.wixsite.com/SYFYAUTHOR. And I put the Go Bag blog on there, and I also put a blog about snares and building shelters.
Very nice.
Everybody
should check that out.
Yeah, my character she uses her basic tarp for a shelter, and eventually they make it using tree. Well, she uses some tree limbs too. They make an even better shelter in book 2 because they have to house an entire group. So they use a cliffside and some other means to make a modified lean-to type shelter. So yeah.
Wow, that's great. We have some questions. N.A. Broadley. She asks, can you describe to us your writing day? Is it structured or do you write in spurts? That's the first part of it. I'll let you go and then I'll hit the rest.
Okay. I write in spurts because of pain levels and fatigue. I write when I'm feeling good. Unfortunately, my brain likes to keep me awake at night. I wrote an entire prequel in my head. I wrote at the end of the book 2 in my head, and I managed to get some of that down, before I forgot it. But yeah, I just write when I feel like writing, and if I really get into it, I can write for quite a while.
Do you have music or do you prefer silence when you're writing?
I pretty much prefer silence.
You're
I
like
don't
me.
really get it because the dog likes to bark. She did that on the interview at 2 o'clock today.
They have a way with that. My cat seems to think he owns everything. So
yeah, I have a cat that yells.
It's the way of pets.
Mm-hmm.
One other question. She asked, would you ever think about writing a project where you co-write with another author?
I've thought about it. I'm not sure, but I might. I kind of consider myself a little bit of an average writer. I'm learning. In book 2, I ended up landing a beta reader that I swear he was doing line editing, and he's willing to do it for book 3. So hey, yay me! But I learned more about point of view. But I also was paying attention to some of the other authors out there, Tom Abrams, Patty Gillespie, all the books I was reading, and paying attention to. You don't necessarily always have to change the scene when your point of view changes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in this sell more books thing with Chandler Bolt, and I specifically asked him, I said, do we have to do this? And he says, we're indie authors, we can do whatever we want. We can break the rules.
True.
But you don't want to break them to the point where you lose your readers.
This is true too. So let's see. One other question. Do you have a writing nook? Or do you just plop down wherever, sit at the kitchen table?
I actually work in my office. In fact, the office includes my husband's space, and he works at home, so we have this backdrop for the interviews. He's not working right now, thank goodness, but he does all the internet stuff, so he keeps the entire town running. So I use my computer desk. I did when I first started trying to push book 2 again. I started during NaNoWriMo, but I was in Hawaii. And my aunt was giving me a hard time because she was reading book 1, this one right here. And she's like, when is book 2 coming out? So I started, writing on my laptop to try and get going on that again.
You know, I do everything on I have two screens and a desktop computer and everything that I do everything on. Build the
Right.
websites and do graphic stuff and work on my schoolwork and everything. But when it comes to writing, I snatch up my laptop and go curl up on the sofa. It's the best
Uh,
place. I don't know why, but it just shows how different we all are.
right.
We have another question from Bonnie, and she wants to know, what do you like best about the post-apocalyptic world? About your apocalyptic world, I'm sorry.
Oh, about mine. I think what I like most best about it is that my character has to figure out how to survive in an environment that she is just thrown into. She has no idea. You know, she's expecting all this high technology, you know, futuristic Seattle, and instead she finds Seattle underwater, and she's having to, you know, hike around, try and find people, and survive. And I think I like it because I have, like I said, I didn't live in the Pacific Northwest, but my mom did, and my siblings. So I visited a lot because I'd already went in the military by the time they, you know, just before they moved. And so I have that area in mind. And so I feel like I can kind of be there, you know, kind of picture my character, you know, in the woods, hiking. And of course, I've always loved mountains and trees and wildlife. I used to hike up in the mountains a lot when I was a kid in Montana. So I think I like the world because there's a lot of challenges, you know, that she has to go through.
That's good thoughts. And I know, like, my first series, it was written in Kentucky, and I lived there. So it was like the far eastern side of Kentucky and northern Tennessee. So, you know, people have noted when you write about some place that you've been or you've lived in,
Mm-hmm.
people have noted to me how they recognize places or areas just from my descriptions of them, just because it was, we write what we know, right? Um,
Right.
so do you have something now? We know that you're working on book 3. Is that correct?
Well, not quite yet. I mean, in my brain I am, but, you know, coming up with different ideas of what to do and make my character do. You know, I kind of already have the prequel or the prologue pretty much set up. Um, Basically, in the prologue, they're going to the Washington D.C. area in the '60s. And I say they, but I'm not going to tell you who. I mean, the main character is one of them, but I won't tell you the second character because you got to find out about this character, and he is a character. He's a pain. Um, so I haven't started typing book 3 yet, but I plan on it. I just want to give myself a little bit of a break. I want to get book 2 out there, breathe for a little bit, and then start book 3 because I'm trying to get it out by winter so I can kind of take a break for a little bit, sit back, and of course there's never really a break because of all the marketing and all that you do, but
Indeed.
at least a break from writing. And then I've had someone ask me if I was ever going to make a full novel out of the first story, Year of Reckoning. And like I said, that is available on my website for free as a short story. So I thought about putting myself back in that world and finishing that story. And maybe down the road finishing the other one that I started, which is the scenario behind that story is there's a comet coming. It's going to collide with the Earth, but scientists aren't too worried about it. But turns out they should have been because there's an alien virus that's on the comet. And the beginning of the book starts out with a very young gentleman that gets a high-end job at the CDC, and he's a virologist, and somehow he's going to play a part in all of that. But and then I might tinker with some more stories, side stories with Future Apocalypse, have her go on some adventures and stuff.
I was just going to ask you that. Is book 3 the end of the line for the future of the apocalypse, or do you see other books in its future?
I possibly see other books in its future. right now it's just book 3. And technically how it ended up in a series is when I was writing the book in NaNoWriMo, I actually managed to get the 50,000, win NaNoWriMo for the first time, and I looked at it, and I wasn't finished because I'd skipped the middle a little bit so I could write the time travel part. And I thought, you know, I won, but nobody really knows. So maybe I'll just publish it. So then I had to finish the middle. And then, of course, you know, I landed an editor through some author friends. Tom Abrams was really nice and read the manuscript, and I had to do a bunch of editing because he gave me some, you know, good information. And so, lost my thought. That happens.
Does it to me all the time. I'm like, ooh, squirrel.
Exactly.
Story of my life.
Oh, I remember my thought. Sorry.
And spit it out.
I also decided that if I tried to finish the story all as one, I probably would never finish it. So I decided to break it into 3 parts. That's why it's a series. It makes it easier for me to write and be able to publish it, you know, without having to kill myself all at once.
Well, yeah, you know that, you know, my problem is I can't write a short story. I had a hardest time writing a short story for the anthology because it just keeps going. And I can't stop at a short story. I got to keep it rolling. The next thing, you know, it's like I'll hit 50,000 or so words. I'm like, all right, you know, I'll go ahead. This is done. We'll close this out and move on to the next one. I just write in series because I'm not done talking about whatever I'm talking about.
Right. And the characters kind of do their own thing sometimes.
Sometimes they do. They dictate. And sometimes, you know, I just don't like them anymore. So I'll go away for a while and I have like, I don't know, 5 or 6 projects underway right now. Eventually something will come out. Actually, the book 2 in our dystopian series that I wrote with Nancy Broadley, that's going to be coming out this week. So I'm pretty excited about that. Yeah, with book 3 following very shortly thereafter. So, you know, I'm pretty excited about that. And it'd be just nice to close out one of the projects. So that's part of my question. Do you write more than one thing at a time, or Lord knows I do everything all at the same time, but
no, one story at a time. I read and listen to multiple things at one time, but I don't write more than one story at a time. I probably could, but I find that I need to finish one thing, and if I focus on that one thing, I find even in my regular life that if I get too many things going or too many hands in the pot, nothing gets done. It's all half completed. But if I just focus on one thing, then I get it done. So.
Yep, sounds like me. I got a little of this done, a little bit of that done, on and on it goes. Story of my life. Yeah, I got Clinton here. How's the anthology? When's the next one coming? It's coming. Just so you know.
It'll be out when it's out.
Yeah, I'm busy sifting through. I was going to close it at the end of May, and this is through Angry Eagle Publishing. So anybody who's interested in adding a short story to the next anthology, they can find the information at angryeaglepublishing.com. And I'm still accepting submissions until June-ish. I put down June 5th, but you know, somewhere in there, if I'm still sifting through them and another one slides in, we may throw that one in as well. We also have a book 2 coming out for the winter apocalypse, the post-apocalyptic winter one. I've just been kind of sitting on the fence. I can't decide. Maybe I'll do a poll out in our group, Written Apocalypse, here on Facebook. Incidentally, anybody who may be listening to this, because this does get transferred over to Blog Talk Radio because we broadcast on Prepper Podcast. Anybody who is interested, I lost my train of thought. Squirrel. Anybody who's interested can catch us live. We've gone to the new video format, and they can catch us live on the Written Apocalypse on Facebook. It is facebook.com/groups/Written Apocalypse. So if you ever want to catch one of the shows live and watch me fidget, which is why I refused, incidentally, for the longest time, I refused to do video because I fidget. And for all these years of, I don't know how many years I've been podcasting, a long time. And for all these years, I fidget the whole time. And so I was like, I don't want to do video because I can't sit still to save my life.
Yeah, me neither.
Crickets. Shut up, Nancy.
Mine's more just got to stretch because of sitting too long.
Yeah, I totally understand that. I have rheumatoid arthritis and I have to move.
Yep.
Otherwise I get, you get stiff and achy. It's just, I
Mm-hmm.
fidget anyway. I'm a fidgeter. So, I mean, that would lead me to, can you just sit down and plow through like a whole bunch? Or do you do, for example, 10 minutes or 20 minutes and then walk away for a while? And would you look at my virtual background? Oh my God.
It's flickering like crazy. It depends. A lot of times I just sit down and, do 10, 20, 30 minutes. But again, if the story's really flowing and I'm not hurting too bad, I'll keep going. If I get to the point where I need to take a break, I go take a break and get away from it, do something else, and then come back and do some more writing. Sometimes those breaks could be a couple of days where I don't type at all. But so it does take me some time to get it to get a story typed together and all. But once I get it together, then it's kind of nice. I can shove it off to the editor.
Yes. So are you one of these people who just moves on to the next project and keeps on writing, or do you take some downtime between projects?
I take downtime. I started actually when I finished the first book of Future Apocalypse, I did start book 2 a little bit, mainly because a lot of my beta readers didn't like the way book 1 was going to end, so I added a couple of chapters from book 2 into book 1. And so I decided to do a little bit more writing, and then I stopped. And that was in September. I stopped writing in book 2 and didn't pick it back up till November.
Yeah, I've done that.
So, which kind of in a way was my purpose, was to try and focus and get it done in November. But it still took me, I think, till January before I was done enough to send it to the editor. So
we are going to show you my blue background because this virtual background is driving me crazy. We are almost done. Okay. So, oh, look at that. I can be anywhere I want.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to get my backgrounds to work. So I don't have to put up real ones.
I know. Well, I do have to put something up behind me. There is something about, some of them will work if you have stuff behind you, and nobody wants to see what's behind me right now. It's a big pile of stuff here. I'm going to the beach. Okay. It's a big pile of stuff, and it just was, kind of ugly. So I was like, yeah, we're just gonna, do this and put the virtual. Boy, I like it at the beach, dudes. Man, I'm going there.
Almost looks like you're in Hawaii. I want to go back, but they say they're not letting anybody come to Hawaii right now.
They're really not letting anybody go anywhere. It's been kind of shut down. I am in the transportation business. Oh. And I drive a charter bus, one of the great big tall ones with the stuff underneath and stuff. And I have been unable to work since mid-March, I'm gonna say. Yeah, it's been quite a long time. So travel, I think, is going to be one of those industries that really are slow to come back.
Yeah.
So do you work besides writing, or are you one of them lucky people who just get to write?
I don't know if you could call me lucky, but no, I don't work. Because of my fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue, I just can't, be on a regular schedule. Like today, I couldn't sleep. I get insomnia and chronic fatigue, so it's kind of crazy. So I can't sleep at night, so I'm sleeping during the day. And even if I did sleep at night, I don't sleep well. So I end up taking 1 or 2 naps a day. You know, I struggled for a while. I was a teacher for a while, and that was really tough, you know, trying to teach. And, you know,
Yeah.
I had to keep moving around just to stay awake, you know, even in the classroom. And, you know,
Maybe that's why I fidget.
popping pain pills to hang, you know, be able to manage.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, see, I get the fatigue because it's chronic fatigue is part of the rheumatoid arthritis. And, you know, they told me, I don't know, about 10 years ago is when they found out that I had it. And they told me, they're like, you probably won't work for another 5 years. That'll be it. That's going to be the end of you. And I was like, oh yeah, watch me. And so, you know, they tried to give me a lot of pain medication and they gave me a lot of drugs and they made me feel terrible. I was like, you know what, screw you guys. I ain't taking this crap. And
Yeah.
so, you know, I stopped. And, you know, it's a struggle sometimes, especially like if I sit for long periods, which I do behind the desk, it's hard to get up and move around. But I find that if I move a lot, then I feel better, believe it or not. It seems almost, you know, opposite, but I find that I feel
Right.
better if I move a lot. And then of course I don't fall asleep standing up. So everybody's picking on my Hawaii pictures.
Hey, I went
But
diving in Hawaii. You know, diving is the only place. When I dive, when I'm in the water, it's the only place I don't hurt.
yeah, the water is great, isn't it?
Yeah, you're floating around.
I'm dying to go to Hawaii. It's the only state I've never been to.
Ah,
So I need
I
to
was
check it
supposed to
off.
go. I was supposed to go to Alaska to visit my son. Well, that ain't happening.
Oh, yeah, well, you definitely have to get up there. And summer's definitely the best time. I lived up there for 2 years in Homer.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I loved it. And if I could drag my kids back to Alaska, I
Mm-hmm.
would. But they are having no part of it, which would be why I'm here.
Ah,
So, you know, they take the grandbabies and do whatever, and I just follow along like the dutiful grandmother that I am.
ah.
So, yeah, it just is. But I would love to go to Alaska. I mean, to Hawaii someday. That's got to have to be on my bucket list. I'm gonna
Oh,
have to
it's
give it a
beautiful
shot.
there. I luck out because I have an aunt and uncle that lives there. So all I have to do is fly in, rent a car. And actually, I don't even have to
Nice.
rent the car if I'm there, you know, when nobody else is visiting. When I went this last time in November, my sister and her daughter were there, so my niece. And so there wasn't enough room for all of us to be in the same vehicle. So I rented a car, which was good because I could do my own thing. I wasn't stuck waiting for them
Yeah,
to
that's
go
nice.
somewhere.
That always makes it better. I know. Um, well, we're coming down to the bottom of the hour, and so do you want to tell everybody where they can find you if they want to reach out and communicate, hunt you down on Facebook or?
Okay. Let's see. For Facebook, you can find me at, oh my, come on, facebook.com/author-Barbara-Gilbert. That should work. And I gave my website earlier, bjgilbert815.wixsite.com/SYFYAUTHOR. And of course, you can find my books on Amazon.com. And if you just type in Future Apocalypse, it'll pop
Will
up.
come up because that's how I found them. A link to Barbara's first book is on our group there on the Written Apocalypse on Facebook, facebook.com/groups/Written Apocalypse. But you'll also be able to, if you're watching this or if you check when it hits Blog Talk Radio, I will also put a link to that. And hopefully, Barbara, if you'll send them over to me, like in a message, send me your links. I'll make sure that they get into
Okay.
the show notes for each one of these.
Okay.
So we can have them out there and people can find you.
And
It looks like my beach time is coming to an end.
yes. And the second book is currently up for ebook for pre-order. So that's available as well.
Now, do you have audiobooks or?
Yes, I forgot about that. Book one's audiobook is just about, I don't want to say just about done. We're finalizing fixing all the little things, and then once that's done, it'll go to Audible. Then we know where that goes, into the black hole for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Once it gets approved by Audible, it'll be out. So again, it's going to be a long process. In fact, it has been a long process, but I've already dumped book 2 on there. I haven't given her the manuscript yet, but I gave her the information to do the 15-minute thing.
Oh, good.
So, and then I also found out from another author friend of mine, she's like, oh, well, just use Audacity and give her all the words that she needs to say correctly. And I'm like, oh man, I wish I'd known that so much sooner. So.
Yeah. When you have strange words, it makes it.
Or when you have a British narrator who's doing it in an American accent and Southern accent, some of those words. And I'm trying not to be too picky. Like she says process instead of process. I'm like, yeah, whatever, because I listened to it as an entire audiobook the last 2 days. And I figure if it made me pause, like, what did I just hear? Then I went back and made notes to get it corrected. If it didn't make me pause, I'm like, okay, it's fine.
Oh, very nice. So that whenever Audible gets around to it, that should be coming out. So that was a question on there that somebody had asked.
Yes, it will. Both of them will be out, and all 3 of them will eventually be in audio.
Most excellent. Well, it's been a genuine pleasure to have you on the show. And I thank you for being patient with my virtual background. As you can see, I am still not entirely comfortable with doing the video. I'm still working towards bringing that up. So you're one of the lucky guinea pigs.
Oh, yay.
That still get me fidgeting and, my tweaky virtual background back there, just trying to, put it all together. And then, like I said, there was a reason why I absolutely refused. But anyone who, I wanted to put this out there, anyone who may want to listen to some of our prior authors, you can find them on Blog Talk Radio, but we also list them on the Written Apocalypse site, which is just writtenapocalypse.com. It goes in there under the podcast, and all of them, the previous podcasts with the authors are all listed in there, as will these be. And we do have the Written Apocalypse YouTube channel. So if you'd like to hear some of our prior guests that we have been interviewing in this same fashion on the YouTube channel, be sure to head over there. You can just find it. It's easy as pie. It's called the Written Apocalypse. We're pretty easy to find. So Barbara, it's been a genuine pleasure to have you on. And I look forward to seeing your new book come out.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the invite and the interview.
Well, you have a great night.
You too. Thank you.